Hello and welcome back, and I believe this is part number 5 now. What a build we've been working on. So I've gone ahead and assembled the arms for the next step. Kind of cut some of the way out because it's already been such a long build. And what we're going to be starting off with today is step number 16. And we're actually going to start attaching the axle to the chassis. And I've gone ahead and built the shocks as well. Most people already know how to build shocks. Another thing we can get out of the way. Well, we're going to start off with the short arms. They're going to go through this hole right here. And you got a spacer. And a lock nut. And the long arms. Down up here in this hole. And they get a spacer. There we go. Same on the other side. Finally starting to get to the point of the build where it's going to start looking like a truck. All right. I got the arms on. Tighten these around to where these are horizontal. Then we get to actually stick the axle in. It should go the short arms on these two and the long arms on these two. All right. Now we're starting to get somewhere. That is something else, all right. Well, I'll go ahead and put the back together and we'll go from there. All right, I've completed that phase. We have the front and rear 4 links and axle set up. Next is to start putting on the springs. Now it takes the blue hard springs for the front and the yellow softer springs for the rear, which are medium. And I double checked this over and over again because I just didn't, the way these springs line up is kind of strange because they've got quite a bend to them, but I went back over the steps, and that's most certainly everything's in the right screw hole, so all I can guess is that's the way it's supposed to be set up. We'll get these retainers around them to push the springs back in and hold them in place. And it just takes 2 screws. Hopefully my thumb's not blocking it too much on you. Just didn't want that to go shooting out. It's kind of an odd setup. If you have a rock crawler, you know what I'm talking about. This is a kind of a very strange setup. Normally you just have your shocks with springs on them, where this actually has this odd cantilever system that the shocks mount to, and then the spring system that runs independently from that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the springs on off camera and get them all situated. Just gets another one of these retaining rings on the bottom. And then we'll get back with you for the next part of the build. Alright, so I'm back with the shock installation. And I had to do one of them because this is just one of the strangest setups I've ever seen. And so you got this piece goes to here. They're really tight to buckle down. And then to here. Turn to where I can get it squeezed in a little better. There we go. And then your shock pops onto right here. Then you have to put one of these retainers in the back. Screw through 2 spacers. And it is showing it on the front, going to this spot. Then you got to try to get a lock nut in the back, and it's a pretty tight fit back there. Get it started. There we go. And there it is. Now, if that is not the strangest daggone suspension setup. On a crawler that I have seen. But it appears that it does work, so I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of it put together, and we'll get back with you on that. Alright, we got the crazy suspension done. Look at that stuff work. That is a piece of engineering marvel right there. I've never seen a suspension quite like that. But, alright. Now that we have that completed, we'll move on to the next step. Starting to get the gearbox and drive shafts together. Let me get set up and we'll move on to that. Alright, so on to part 21 is putting together the drive shaft universals. And this is a part that I'll probably be upgrading in the future. I don't really like how these plastic ones go together. Just, I don't know, it feels like a fail point to me. You have to kind of shove them down in there and then use a pair of pliers and bend this tab up to get them to pop into place. That just seems like that's a part that could easily come back apart under a lot of stress, in my opinion. But we're going to put them together and use them for now. I know they have the full metal ones available. Yeah, there are some tricky little things. Hard part's getting the one side started. Push down there as best you can. All right. There you go on that. I'll go ahead and assemble the other side of this. When it's all together, here's what they end up looking like. Now we'll be moving on to step 22, the planetary gears. All right, it's time to start assembling this, the planetary gear section. Now it has these screws going into these little aluminum lugs, and it doesn't tell you to thread tight them in the instructions, but I just feel a little bit better if it has some on it. This is a part I don't want coming apart. When you look at it, they start off with you set in this direction, and first one goes in right here. Now I'm gonna get the screw through there first. Yeah, I definitely feel better having a little bit of thread tight on there. Especially with it being, inside the gearbox. You don't want to open that up. One of these little screws comes out. That's just not a good time. And then just form the triangle pattern. It's pretty easy. All right. Then these little bearings that pop in your planetary gears. They should just slide right over. And this should just line right up and sit over top of them. Okay. Well, there we have it. Oops. Now, to move on to step 23. That's actually placing the planetary gears inside of the housing and start getting the actual differential and everything set up inside there. So, let me get these parts out and set up and we'll move on to that. Alright, I've stared at it for a second. I think I got a decent grasp of what's going on. I need to get these all greased up. I have to open up the next tube of grease here soon. This is one left over from another build I figured I'd use up first. Okay, now I need to take and grease this. Set my little pin through there. And that should set right down in there and seat. Good, it did. And a bearing goes over here. That seats down in there nicely. I'm going to put a little extra grease around the inside of this before I install the ring gear, the pinion ring gear down in there. Or planetaries, I guess. That should slide through there. Seat this way. Spins nice and smooth. And then should line up. A little pin that sits in there. That should decently lock everything into place. Pretty good. After you've completed that, you have to get this to set in here. Spin it till it fits in. That shows this. This is where it got interesting. I was looking at the instructions. There's 4 screws through this part of the assembly, and all 4 of them are different lengths. Then you have to use a lock nut in there. Another one to fit down here. There we go. I think I got it halfway straightened. Another one over here. Should take the shorter screw. Guess it'd help if I put it in the right spot. There we go. Oh, I don't want to get seated in there. There it goes. And the final one seats on this side. All right. Like that. And it'll all be working properly. Well, that finishes up step 23. I'll pan out here a little bit. We've gotten done everything on the frame as far as suspension wise is concerned, and we started assembling the gearbox. All the axles are mounted in place. I think that's what we're going to call the end of video 5 here. When we come back, we'll be starting on step 24, and that'll be finishing mounting up the motor and actually start to get to the point where we're getting everything in and maybe get the electronics working in the next one. Well, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you stopping by and spending all this time with me. Well, I know it's a long one. But everyone, have a great day, and I will see you on the next video.